$17 of parts went into a pair of Beats headphones that sold for $199. The two speakers inside, the entire reason the headphone exists, cost roughly $1.80. And when engineers took one apart, they found chunks of metal bolted inside that did nothing at all, except make the headphones feel heavier in your hand. That wasn't a manufacturing mistake, it was the product. Apple bought this company in 2014 for $3 billion. The factory that actually built the headphones walked away with $5.5 million. Here's how the cheapest part of a business became the only part that mattered. Undervalued. The business they don't teach you. Here's the part that gets left out of the legend. Dre and Einstein didn't build a headphone. In 2008, they signed a licensing deal with Monster, the cable company run by an engineer named Noel Lee. Read what each side actually agreed to do. Monster handled the engineering. Monster handled the production. Monster handled the distribution. Beats handled the name. That's the whole arrangement. Monster made the thing. Beats made it mean something. And for 4 years it worked spectacularly. Between 2008 and 2012, Beats products moved about $1.5 billion of headphones. 2 companies, 1 product, and only one of them was building anything. Guess which one the money ended up with? In 2015, a hardware firm bought a pair of Beats Solo HDs, the ones that retailed at $199, and took them completely apart. Every component, every screw, the packaging, the tooling. Total bill of materials, $16.89. Call it 8.5% of the sticker. The drivers, the actual speakers, the part that makes the sound, came to about $1.80 of that. The whole device was 37 pieces. Now that number isn't the full cost of the business, and we'll come back to that honestly in a few minutes, but hold the shape of it in your head, because the next thing they found inside is the part that explains everything. If you're enjoying this teardown, subscribing helps more than you'd think. Audiophiles spent a decade furious about this. They ran the frequency response charts, showed the bass was wildly boosted, and concluded that anyone buying Beats had been conned. They were right about the sound and completely wrong about the product. Because nobody was buying a measurement. They were buying a large, glossy, unmistakable object worn on the most visible part of the human body. A headphone is the only consumer electronic you wear on your head, facing other people. That's not a gadget, that's a billboard with a warranty. And once you see the product that way, the $17 of parts stops being a scandal and starts being a strategy. The next move is where it gets genuinely clever. If the product is a billboard, the marketing problem inverts. You don't need to explain the headphones, you need them seen on the right heads. So Beats put them on musicians in their own videos, on athletes walking into stadiums, on the necks of people who looked like the future. Einstein ran the biggest record label in the country. He had the artists on speed dial, and the music video was already being filmed. The distribution channel for the advertising was a business he already owned. That's the trick everyone missed. Beats didn't outspend Sony and Bose on advertising. It sat inside the machine that manufactured cool and pointed it at a headphone. And for a while, it worked better than anyone had a right to expect. The obvious question is why the incumbents didn't just crush this. Sony and Bose had decades of acoustic research, real engineering teams, patents, factories. Bose, in particular, had spent a fortune on noise cancellation that genuinely worked. And they lost the shelf anyway because they were answering a question nobody in that aisle was asking. Their pitch was fidelity. This reproduces the recording accurately. Beats' pitch was identity. This says something about you. You cannot beat an identity product by winning a fidelity argument, any more than you can beat a Rolex with a more accurate watch. The incumbents kept improving the thing being measured. Beats improved the thing being seen. which worked right up until somebody wanted to buy the whole idea. Apple did not need a headphone business. It had just spent a decade putting white earbuds in every box it shipped, and it could have built a premium pair in a quarter. What Apple didn't have was a streaming service anyone wanted, and more importantly, it didn't have the two men who could walk into any record label in the world and get a phone call returned. Beats came with a subscription service, and it came with Iovine and Dre. 13 months later, Apple Music launched, and Iovine ran it. That's what the $3 billion was for. The headphones were the part you could see. The relationships were the part Apple actually couldn't build, which tells you where the value really sat. Every physical product is really two businesses stacked on top of each other. Underneath is the manufacturing layer: factories, tooling, supply chains, quality control. Brutally hard, endlessly competitive, and worth almost nothing at exit, because anyone with capital can rent the same factory in the same industrial park. On top sits the brand layer: the name, the meaning, the reason someone pays $199 instead of $40. It owns no machines and carries no inventory risk, and it captures nearly all of the value. Monster owned the bottom layer and got $5.5 million. Beats owned the top layer and got $3 billion. Same product, same factories, same headphones. Now the honest part, because that $17 number gets abused. The $17 figure gets quoted as though Beats pocketed $182 a unit. It didn't, and anyone who's run a hardware company will tell you why. A bill of materials counts parts. It doesn't count the retailer who takes a large cut of every pair sold in a store. It doesn't count assembly, freight, warranty claims, returns, or the tooling written off when a model gets replaced. And it doesn't count the marketing, which for this company was not a rounding error. It was the product. The real margin was excellent. It was not 92%. And notice this doesn't weaken the argument at all. Even on honest accounting, the money followed the name rather than the factory. So what did Dre actually make? When the deal leaked, a video went up of Dre celebrating himself as hip-hop's first billionaire. Forbes did the arithmetic and gently disagreed. He owned somewhere in the region of 20 to 25%. Of Apple's $2.6 billion in cash, about $295 million went to paying down debt before anyone got paid. Forbes put Dre's take at a little over $500 million in cash, plus close to $100 million in Apple stock. An extraordinary outcome, and not a billion. He finally made the Forbes billionaire list in 2026, 12 years later, and largely because he held the Apple stock. The headline was wrong, the strategy was not. So here's what Beats actually was. Not an audio company, not really a hardware company either. It was a marketing company that licensed a factory, sold a visible object to people who wanted to be seen owning it, and kept the one asset that couldn't be copied, the name on the side. The $17 of parts wasn't the con, it was the proof. Apple didn't pay $3 billion for a headphone, it paid $3 billion for the meaning bolted to the outside of one. Next time you see a product that seems wildly overpriced for what's inside it, the useful question isn't whether it's a rip-off. It's who owns the name and who merely owns the factory. Here's my question, and I want real answers below. What's a product you own where you know deep down you paid for the logo and not the engineering, and you'd buy it again anyway? Drop it in the comments. The best one becomes an episode. Subscribe for one hidden machine a week on Undervalued. Next up, Spotify, a company that hands 70% of its money to the record labels and somehow still built a real business.